provided by Thomas Allgeier and Frennis, based on the most relevant posts on LinkedIn about go-to-market in CW 2627. Frennis is a B2B market research company working with enterprises to optimize their campaigns with account and executive insights far beyond AI. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking a shortcut to being well-informed on some of the most critical discussions happening right now in B2B go-to-market.
That's right. We've sifted through a whole stack of curated LinkedIn insights from calendar weeks 26 and 27, and we're going to pull out the most important nuggets for you.
Our mission for this deep dive, it's really to unpack the top go-to-market trends we're seeing pop up on LinkedIn. We want to offer you some, surprising facts and definitely actionable insights to help you navigate this B2B landscape, which is, let's face it, always evolving.
Definitely.
So let's unpack this. Okay, let's dive in. The big message, the overarching theme from LinkedIn these past couple of weeks, it seems to be a pretty significant shift. Operators are moving from just, experimenting with AI to actually embedding generative intelligence deep into their revenue workflows.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is the sheer scale we're talking about. Sarah Storm pointed this out, and it was echoed in the overall summary we looked at. Oracle securing that massive multi-billion-dollar agreement with OpenAI.
Wow, multi-billion.
Exactly. It's anchoring generative AI right at the core of enterprise GTM. It kind of signals that the future, especially for those high ACV SaaS sales, those really big deals, it's going to be orchestrated, not improvised. That's the quote.
Orchestrated, not improvised. So it's not just about landing those huge deals then. It's more about using AI to make the entire GPM process more precise and dynamic.
Absolutely. Eliel Elbahari, he points out how AI-driven CPQ, that's configure, price, quote, and these data engineering layers underneath, they're transforming all that fragmented customer input into dynamic quotes and really sophisticated targeting maps. He calls it the new logic engine for GTM execution.
A new logic engine, okay.
But, this raises a really important question. How does this actually translate into daily operations, for the teams on the ground?
Well, Andreas Wernicke gives a great example of exactly that. He talks about AI transforming messy customer information into precise GTM sales data.
Oh, okay.
Imagine you've got LinkedIn profiles saying drain specialists or plumbing experts, maybe residential services. AI can look at all that and categorize them simply as plumbing in the CRM.
Right, cleaning it up.
Exactly. Makes reference targeting way easier for the sales reps.
And if we connect that to the bigger picture, that precision, it directly impacts efficiency, right?
Yeah.
Celeste J highlights that AI-sourced leads convert 40% better than traditional inbound.
40%, that's huge.
It is. And she notes that AI lets GTM teams build systems that can react in real time. They can see signals before they're obvious and adapt the messaging based on how a buyer is actually engaging, not just guessing.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting, because it seems like not everyone's jumping on the unlimited AI bandwagon. Jacob Statler points to a, quote, shift from AI for quantity to AI for quality.
Okay. Quality over quantity.
Yeah, he mentions concerns about accuracy, compliance issues, and just maintaining the brand voice with AI-written content. He even says companies are cooling on AI-written content, citing a stat that 41% are cutting budgets for text content specifically.
That's a significant pushback, and it raises this important question, doesn't it? Are we building truly agentic systems that can think and adapt, or are we just setting up single points of failure?
Right.
J.B. Dagonet cautions that often what gets called agentic is really just, and I quote, one ops person hacking together automations that no one else can touch.
Oh, boy. Been there.
Yeah, exactly. It creates this custom-coded maze, he says, that basically locks your growth behind one person, one potential failure point.
Right, okay. So maybe shifting gears a bit from AI, there's also this really strong emphasis on foundational GTM strategy. Going back to basics, it feels like.
What's fascinating there is the consistent call to validate product market fit first, before anything else. The overall summary and folks like Mark Lim really hammered this home. Founders are being urged to focus on a single ICP, offer, and channel before scaling.
Single ICP, offer, channel. Keep it simple.
Exactly. His point is that complexity is the enemy of execution. Don't try to boil the ocean from day one.
And it's not just about starting simple, is it? It's also about diagnosing problems correctly. Marcus Chan points out that startup founders often misdiagnose declining revenue as a GTM issue.
Jumping to conclusions.
Right. He says you got to dive into the data first, diagnose the root cause. Is it targeting? Messaging? Is it actually a product market fit problem?
Yeah. Before
you start rebuilding your whole strategy. His advice is clear. Data first, diagnosis second, solutions third.
Data, diagnosis, solutions. Makes sense. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it's really about avoiding those super expensive mistakes, isn't it? Piyush Dibamare highlights these common pitfalls in GTM strategies that cause them to fail before they even get implemented. And Crystal Conkle puts it really bluntly, marketing can't fix what strategy broke. That just underscores how vital that solid GTM foundation is. She calls it the operating system that powers how your business grows.
The operating system. I like that. So what does this all mean then? Does it mean speed to insight is actually more crucial than trying to get everything perfect up front?
That seems to be the argument. Chris Al-Sheikhi argues pretty strongly, actually, that your first GTM motion is just a test.
Just a test, okay?
Yeah. He says the companies that scale fastest don't aim for perfection. They aim for speed to insight. He's urging teams to launch fast, measure what's breaking, and iterate aggressively. It's the iterative loop.
Launch, measure, iterate. Got it. But then how do you know if your strategy will actually, work? How do you test its strength?
Well, Jonathan W. Buckley offers a really powerful litmus test for that. He asks this question. Can a rep with no industry experience close a deal in 60 days using your story and tools?
Ooh, that's a tough one. 60 days, no experience.
Right. And he says if the answer is no, then it's not a strategy. It's a workaround. It really forces you to think about how clear and effective your whole GTM package is.
That's a great framework. And building on that, Carol Howley outlines 5 essential components for what she calls a high-performance GTM system.
Okay, what are they?
Deep audience insight, laser-focused targeting, personalized messaging, creating an emotional connection, and continuous optimization. And she emphasizes, again, that GTM isn't a single campaign or a departmental plan, but really the operating system that powers how your business grows. There's that operating system idea again.
It keeps coming up, and Millie Beetham supports this too. She suggests GTM leaders should prioritize mindset over just following rigid playbooks.
Think differently.
Yeah. Think like an architect, she advises. Design systems that can actually scale. And she makes an interesting point that often the most valuable signals are hiding in product usage data. For her, RevOps revenue operations is becoming the central GTM nervous system.
The central nervous system, connecting everything. Okay, so we've talked AI, we've talked strategy. What about execution? Getting things done day to day.
Right, where the rubber hits the road. We're definitely seeing a strong focus here on multi-channel approaches and being really dynamically responsive.
Dynamic responsiveness, like reacting quickly.
Exactly. What's particularly fascinating is the focus on real-time signals. Maja Vojay talks about leveraging real-time triggers from 92 million companies. That's a lot of companies.
Wow.
For doing hyper-personalized first touches. She gives examples like sending a message saying, congrats on the funding, curious if you're scaling up.
Contextually relevant.
Precisely. She says this stuff works because it's based on real buying signals, not guesswork.
Makes sense. And it's not just about generating more leads then, but also really listening and optimizing the leads you already have or the campaigns you're running.
Absolutely. Michelle Lieben reveals what he calls the hidden reason 90% of outbound campaigns die after 30 days. And guess what? It's a lack of feedback loops.
No feedback loops.
Interesting. Yeah. He says teams need to treat every reply as intelligence, categorize those responses, analyze the patterns every week, and build workflows to iterate based on what you're learning. Don't just send and forget.
Treat every reply as intelligence.
That's powerful. So this really raises an important question then. Are our GTM systems truly integrated? Or are they still siloed?
That's a key theme. Joe Lagretta stresses that companies scale faster when they build GTM as one unified revenue engine, not as, separate sales, marketing, and customer success teams doing their own thing.
Break down the silos.
Exactly. He advocates for shared metrics across the full customer journey and having a centralized RevOps to run the machine.
Yeah.
That nervous system idea again. So it feels like we're talking about GTM becoming, almost more like engineering in a way.
You hit it. Brian Martinovich talks about GTM engineering as this big shift happening in modern revenue teams.
GTM engineering. Okay.
He says it's driven by buyers expecting more relevance, AI allowing for really rapid prototyping of GTM ideas, and just the constant pressure for efficiency. He even mentioned something called vibe coding.
Vibe coding, what's that?
Apparently, it's where you basically just type what you want, a backend appears, an app launches. Kind of like building GTM motions almost on the fly with AI assistants.
Whoa. Yeah. Okay, that's futuristic. And if we connect that to the bigger picture, It implies a pretty different future for GTM roles, doesn't it?
Completely. Alex Lindahl notes that with this vibe coding plus GTM engineering idea, the lines really blur. He says every builder thinks about market, and every marketer becomes a builder.
Everyone's a builder. Everyone thinks market.
Yeah, leading to launch is happening weekly, not yearly. It's this vision of incredible agility in B2B.
But, it's not just about building shiny new things constantly. It's also about refining what's already working.
Right.
Making sure the execution is solid.
Definitely. Divyanshi Sharma shared a specific GTM workflow that apparently booked 110 plus meetings in June.
110 meetings, how?
By leveraging LinkedIn, Facebook, and Reddit, so multi-channel through integrated campaigns. It really shows the power when you execute across channels effectively.
Okay, multi-channel integration is key.
But that integration comes with its own challenges. Harris Kenney was monitoring GTM tools, and his findings were a bit sobering. He found that over half, more than 50%, had some sort of outage in just the last month.
Over half the tools had outages.
Yikes. Yeah, it really highlights the complexity and maybe the fragility of these highly integrated workflows we're building. He actually built a free aggregated status page for GTM tools, which is pretty useful for trying to figure out what's broken when things inevitably go wrong.
That's actually super helpful. Okay, so lots to digest there. If you enjoyed this deep dive, remember, new deep dives drop every 2 weeks. And also, be sure to check out our other editions covering account-based marketing, field marketing, channel marketing, MarTech, social selling, and AI in B2B marketing.
And just before we wrap up, Alon even left us with a really good thought. He reminds us that you can't force B2B buyers to buy. That's not marketing's job, right?
Right.
He figures about 50% of GTM problems get solved just by being discoverable, being memorable, earning trust early on, showing up consistently whether buyers seem ready or not, and just reducing friction in the process.
Okay, so what's the other 50%?
The other 50%, he argues, is about what you need to unlearn the old playbooks that no longer match how buyers buy today.
Right.
So maybe the question to leave everyone with is, what old playbooks are you ready to unlearn?
Food for thought. Well, we really appreciate you joining us on this deep dive into the latest go-to-market trends. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next exploration of what's shaping the B2B world.